Jim Ryan got sucker punched twice today. Even Japan has come out and ruled in favor of Microsoft. Sony's home country. Can you imagine how uncomfortable that's got to be the next time Jim Ryan meets with the Sony mothership? It's like, really? You couldn't even close Tokyo.
The momentum keeps building up for Microsoft and its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Last week, we saw the CMA take a substantial U-turn from its provisional findings in favor of Xbox, and now the floodgates are seemingly starting to open, almost as if a famous guru once prophesied. The latest update, however, surprisingly comes out of glorious Nippon, Japan, of all places, the home turf of bitter rival and main opposer of the deal, Sony. Now that will hurt PlayStation's pride. The Japanese Fair Trade Commission, or the JFTC, confirmed that it would not be issuing a cease and desist order against Microsoft because the merger would not substantially restrain competition in a certain field of trade. And VGC translated the JFTC's statement, which confirmed that the integration of ABK by Microsoft falls under the safe harbor criteria for vertical business in combination. What does that mean? It means the JFTC is a lot more clued up than the FTC or PlayStation when it goes on to say there are competing businesses and games are distributed in digital formats, so it's unlikely that there will be a shortage of supply capacity. Would you look at that? A trade commission that actually understands what it means to safeguard competition, and one that understands that the industry is a lot more than just Call of Duty. Take notes, PlayStation, but you already knew that, didn't you, you slippery sods? What does this mean for the ABK deal as a whole? Well, it just adds more and more pressure on the FTC in the United States. That is looking increasingly like the outlier here, with Lina Khan's tenure already raising eyebrows, having had several members of her team just leave. Don't think this will be smooth sailing for Microsoft, though. Expect the FTC and Lina Khan to put up a bitter fight here, even if the rest of the world doesn't take issue with the proposed merger. The FTC will want to see its day in court, and frankly, it doesn't even care if it loses. Just today, Holly Valdova, the head of the FTC Bureau of Competition, stated the following: "We want to bring cases that have a big impact. A court decision can help us as enforcers, notwithstanding the results." Regarding the Xbox ABK merger, she said, "It's important to revitalize our litigation program." So there you have it. The FTC wants to fight irrespective of the likelihood of success. Microsoft is also doing some sly maneuvering in the background. There's $70 billion on the line, remember, and you shouldn't underestimate just how much of a political exercise all of this is. So, just as Microsoft approaches key dates for this ABK deal, out come out the politicians. 11 members of Congress from both sides of the political spectrum have now come out to push Biden into taking action against supposed anti-competitive measures employed by PlayStation against Xbox in Japan. Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell said the following during a Senate Finance Committee hearing: "I'm told that Sony holds a monopoly of 98% of the high-end games market, yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers, establishing games that are amongst the most popular in Japan."
Shit. Got your ass.
Has Sony set themselves up for a little bit of trouble here with this situation?
I think Sony definitely did set themselves up when they started to so staunchly agree with what the FTC and the CMA were doing, which is already a pretty aggressive position in order to justify their findings at the time with respect to the CMA and with the FTC continuing. I think that they have set themselves up to be closely examined for how they operate in a number of different jurisdictions, not the least of which is Japan. Because if it is just Sony versus Microsoft, Sony obviously has the bulk of huge markets in and across a bunch of jurisdictions. And so if you ask regulators to really look at that carefully, you start to get questions about, should we be allowing exclusive contracts and marketing deals for somebody that owns huge percentages of the marketplace against Xbox?
This happened before the Japanese Federal Trade Commission okayed the deal, so the political chess game, pressure and lobbying, is working. CEO of Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick, in an email sent to his staff on Tuesday, said, "This is good news. Regulators who initially had concerns about the console competition are starting to better understand our industry. The data and evidence Microsoft has been presenting are tilting the scale." Interestingly, you also explicitly address the whole argument put forward by Sony about Microsoft deploying underhanded tactics, such as purposely releasing buggy versions of Call of Duty on PlayStation. Here's a bit of source for you. He said, "We all know our passionate players would be the first to hold Microsoft accountable for keeping its promises on content and quality parity. And all of us who work so hard to deliver the best games in our industry care too deeply about our players to ever launch subpar versions of our games. Do you think Microsoft would ever purposely downgrade the PlayStation versions of Call of Duty?" And ask yourself, between Xbox or PlayStation, which one of these two companies is most likely to engage in that kind of dishonorable conduct? Bobby then actually went on to confirm what Lulu Massave said a few weeks back about Jim Ryan wanting to block the merger. He said, "This is obviously disappointing behavior from a partner of almost 30 years, but we will not allow Sony's behavior to affect our long-term relationship." Sure, Bobby. The key words there are long-term relationship. Right now, that relationship is definitely frayed. And when was the last time you got this kind of open hostility or disappointment between companies being aired to the public in the gaming space like this? At least at this scale. At the end of the day, money talks. You never know though, Sony might be obstructive even after all the approvals are granted by regulators or decided by courts. Ultimately, the approval in the United States might be granted on conditional grounds. One being that contractual provisions and assurances are offered to Sony by Microsoft, and they must be satisfactory and subject to independent review. I hope that isn't the case and the deal can finally get done, but we'll see. So it's all starting to move in a positive direction for Xbox, especially with the CMA essentially approving it on the main contested ground regarding competition in the console space. The EC has done the same. The FTC in the US will be a bitter fight though, so I'm sure we'll see some fireworks very soon. If you think the deal is going to get approved, let me know in the comments below. And let me know when you think it's going to go through. Last year, Microsoft stated that the summer of this year is when it's expecting it to be finalized. I think that is now looking very feasible, but only time will tell. Smash that like button if you like this little update. And until next time, sauce.
You get a set of steak knives. So Jim Ryan's like, "Hello, governor, I got a bloody nose in Japan, I did. No worries, mate. I'll head back to America where they love me."